serving as the sports dietitian for the Kansas City Chiefs. So yes, she's been busy. Welcome to the Produce Moms. This is the podcast where I talk to various people who've made an impact on the fruit and vegetable community. There are so many stories to share that will change the way you look at fresh produce. Leslie, welcome to the show. We're so glad you're here.
Oh, Lori, I am so thrilled to be here. And this is such an exciting week for me. My heart is in my throat. My champagne is purchased. I am ready for a Sunday, and I am so happy for these guys. You know, I always say this is like being the pit crew. We're the pit crew and they're the drivers, and it's so exciting to be part of that pit crew to get them there.
Oh, Leslie, it is so exciting. So for those of you who are tuning in today, to frame up where we're at. So Leslie and I are connecting on Friday, February 10th. And this show, as you know, the Produce Moms podcast airs every Wednesday. So we're going to drop this show on Wednesday after the game. But all the anticipation, the team is in Phoenix. Mahomes was named the league MVP yesterday. And we are gearing up for the big game this weekend. And Leslie is their sports dietitian. And I think that for folks who follow along with what the Produce Moms is all about, have a shared passion that you and I both have for fruits and vegetables. And also just for moms at home who have, athletes of maybe not the pro caliber, but nutrition plays such a critical role in what our bodies are able to do. So this is going to be a wonderful discussion. Leslie, let's just kick things off with helping folks understand your background, because beyond this incredible role that you have right now, sports dietitian for the Kansas City Chiefs, you've been a leader in nutrition and dietetics for several years. So help people understand what your role means, what the field of sports dietetics means, and the breadth of your impact on making fruits and vegetables something that everyone wants to eat.
Absolutely. So, Lori, I would call myself one of the fossils of dietetics. So, that means succinct, not extinct. But nonetheless, is the cool thing about I am a registered dietitian, also board certified specialist in sport dietetics, and sport nutrition has been part of my career for 30 plus years. In terms of working at a high school level, collegiate level, Olympic level, professional level with recreational athletes. Both of our boys played soccer, and we've got 3 little ones now, and they are also active as well. So I think as parents, we have to do the training table at home. I mean, that's important. We want our kids to be nourished and nurtured to the best of their ability. And what better way to do that than with food, from our hearts to their bowls, all the time. And because I work in this area of what I would call collision nutrition, football is that way, right? There's a lot of that. So, if you train in pain, your fitness goes down the drain. That is a huge issue, and that's not just at the professional level. And so really thinking about the performance plate. This is above and beyond the macros. It's all about the phytos. That's the fruits and the vegetables that make such a big difference. And so I am always about getting fruits and vegetables into them every day. And I will tell you, this is like 2-year-olds and big bodies. That's exactly what this is. And so making it fun. One of the things we did a couple of years ago at training camp, Lori, is we did non-alcoholic Bloody Mary. So there were all these different veggies, and you could create your own. Let me tell you, we've got a lot of creative baristas. They were a little ticked that there was no alcohol, but oh well, that's the way that it is. But guess what? Everybody had more vegetables because it was fun. And so, I'm all about, you have to try it to buy in. Otherwise it doesn't happen. And it has to be comfortable, and it has to be familiar, and it has to be enjoyable. And that's always my motto. Food and fluid is the internal equipment for any athletic performance. It's not the helmet. It's not the pads. It's not the cleats. This is make the really big difference.
That's right. Yep. And for those of you who aren't with us on YouTube, you must come on over to YouTube and watch Leslie do her motions of, yes, yeah. I need to get my arms around what a typical day looks like. Or maybe it's more like a typical season, considering that you are a sports dietitian for a pro football team. I mean, is your job year round? Is it seasonal? What does a typical day look like? Or maybe walk us through the season on like how they utilize you from training camp to Super Bowl.
I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania. I'm not a Kansas City resident, so I do travel to them and I go weekly. So when does the season start? Basically in March, where we have some of the players coming back, and then when they need to be back in the building is in April. So they're there for a period of time from April until mini camp. It's about 6 weeks that they are there. And at that point, we're troubleshooting, right? It is who needs to be increasing mass and who needs to be decreasing body fat and who is still recovering from injury, and really getting all that stuff in place with the consistency that they have when they're in the building. When they're on their own, all bets are off. You never know, you never know what they're doing. So a lot of it is individual. Even though I work for a team, I'm working with individual players, because if I have a room of 53, or, when we're looking at OTAs, it's a room of 100, not everybody has the same goals. So to be able to individualize for them. So that's a big part of it, is what I would say the 4 Ps. So one of them is physiology. If somebody has underlying injury, if somebody is recovering from concussion, if somebody has an underlying newly diagnosed or chronic disease that they need to manage nutritionally. That's the first P. The second P is physique. So those players that want to increase muscle mass, decrease body fat, or multitask, that means both, is how do they do that the right way? The third is performance, strength, speed, stamina, recovery. How do we optimize that? And that's one of the reasons they're where they are, is because they've made this effort consistently over the course of the entire season. It starts preseason. And then the fourth is practicality. If it's too hard, not going to get done. So thinking about what they can be consistent with, how they can take ownership of their fueling, those are the 4 Ps. And those are the things we address then. Then when it comes to, they have about 6 weeks off from mini camp until training camp. And at that point, most of these guys are pretty much dialed in, because they know what's coming when they get to training camp. So maybe it's a little bit of fun on the front end, and then you buckle down and do what you need to do. So at training camp, it's our learning lab. Nobody's going anywhere. They are there all day long. And we really make sure, not only in terms of having fuel available for sport, but cool fuel, because it is hot on the field. Sometimes those temps, 120 degrees. So bring on those slices of watermelon. Bring on what I would call cropsicles. So, blending the fruit and veggies and putting that on a popsicle stick, because that's cool to have something like that. It's comfortable. Or the little squeeze pops. All these ways that we get more fruit and vegetable in, those are perfect things to do, because those are cool foods.
And Leslie, you mentioned watermelon and these popsicles. I think it's so prudent to remind folks, fruits and vegetables are so naturally hydrating because of their natural water content, which is also critical. I mean, hydration has to be a huge part of your strategy with these athletes.
Well, it is. And and not everybody wants to just drink water. And the fact of the matter is, yes, you have to hydrate, but this is hydrate plus. So if I'm having fruits and vegetables and that 90 to 99% fluid, I'm also getting everything else that's in that fruit and vegetable. We don't get that in a glass of water. So being very creative about those types of things. Then, once, the cuts have been made at training camp, always sad, but it is that way. And they come to Arrowhead, and then it's getting into the season and into what it is that they need to do. And one of the things, we're establishing the consistency in training camp. So it's a very easy, natural transition. And at that point, that's really the focus. The focus is now on competition and season and addressing any particular issues that come up. We always try and do different days of Taste It Tuesday, something new to introduce. Always listen to what it is the players want. Those that want to try veggie burgers, they're there, trying different types of grains, maybe roasting the cauliflower with buffalo seasoning, because you know what? They like it. That works to do those types of things, and making it fun. To me, and we know this, football is an uncomfortable sport. It's contact. So when you come in to eat, there's the nurturing. It's like that warm, fuzzy blanket. That's the only time of the day you get it, is when you eat. So we really are all about that, of making it an enjoyable experience. And we know that because the players sit and eat. They're not just grabbing the food and going elsewhere. They're sitting, they're eating, they're relaxing. They're doing all those things that they need to do to refuel and restore during the day.
The average NFL roster, I think, is around 53 during the season. That's a lot of athletes to maintain. I mean, I know from hosting this show, being a steward to your work and other dietitians' work in this industry, nutrition is such a personalized topic, venture, and scientific component of food. How do you do it? 53. I mean, do you have a team? Is this something where you meet with everyone individually? Is there, that's a lot of players to manage.
Well, it's 53 active roster plus practice squad plus the coaches and all of the staff. So, it's probably double that. But, the fact of the matter is why, and hats off to our fabulous food service department and executive chef. She's like, woohoo, fantastic, is that we accommodate everybody of what it is that they need. There is nothing off the table. Maybe lobster tail all the time. We're like, no, we're not going to do that. But if somebody says, I want to do salad, but I want to have roasted, and I want to have a cauliflower crust pizza, and I want to have a smoothie that's made with papaya and kale, it will be there for them, because we believe in this so strongly. And there are some players that have very specific requests, and there are many that are just really simple in terms of the request. They don't want to deviate at all. It's give me the same thing every day, and they're extremely happy. And part of that is consistency is so critically important so that you don't have gut upset. The last thing we want is food out of the body. An outer body experience is never a good thing with food. So, and thinking about how much one eats. So they practice in the afternoons. So they don't really eat a lot at lunchtime because they're going to be on the field at 1. But when they come off the field and when they're done lifting, then they can come back up into the dining area and pick something to take home with them. So that's real, and that's restore. So in the course of a day, you're preparing for what you're going to do, and you're preparing from what you did to do it again. It's always that particular mindset, and we certainly have food that's available to make that happen on an individualized basis.
The only other sports dietitian we had on the show was for the Duke Blue Devils basketball team. And she was telling us that one of the biggest things that she coordinates, especially, in season, are the snacks during the game, like during halftime, and what's available to the players if they need something during a timeout. That blew my mind. I did not think, oh yeah, that would make sense. They're going to be needing to eat during halftime and breaks and whatnot. Similar type of operation with you at the NFL and with the Chiefs?
Yes, and certainly with every NFL team, because the pregame meal is 3 to 4 hours beforehand. So there's usually like the early shift and then the later one. So, that food has pretty much been digested and utilized before they start to play, before the coin toss. And so, the goal is certainly not a feast or a buffet at halftime, because again, bad, but it's little bits of food. So it's parts of a banana. It is a little bag of trail mix, not a mitt, a little bag of something. So it's just like a little nibble to just help to restore, to be able to go back out there and finish the game. So we do have lots of things, some savory, some sweet, some crunchy, some creamy, some more liquidy, and some more solid, depending upon what the gut tolerance is.
Thanks for sharing. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. We've got Leslie Bonci, sports dietitian for the Kansas City Chiefs. Have you tried the Evercrisp apple? I love this apple. It is super sweet and juicy. And the parent varieties are Honeycrisp and Fuji, so I know you're going to love the Evercrisp too. Our brand partners at Applewood Fresh grow Evercrisp apples, so I thought I'd ask Shelby from Applewood Fresh why she loves this apple. Hey Shelby, thanks for dropping in to say hi to the Produce Moms podcast. How are things going in Michigan?
Hey Lori, things in Michigan are great right now. Our shipping office and dock doors are busy. Everyone is enjoying Michigan apples right now, for sure.
So tell everyone why you love the Evercrisp apple.
Well, I think it's the flavor and powerful crunch. They're super sweet and stay fresh even in the fruit bowl. It's a durable apple that arrives later in the season and has a long shelf life, maintaining sweetness and firmness for months. They're the perfect apple for snacking.
Evercrisp apples are in season now. Visit evercrispapple.com to learn more. Welcome back to the Produce Moms podcast. Lori Taylor, joined with Leslie Bonci, registered dietitian and sports dietitian for the Kansas City Chiefs. Leslie, we've got 2 headlines that we are going to read to you, and we want you to respond. I think this is a really unique opportunity or a unique occasion, rather, for our for our industry news segment, because typically we read some sort of headline news that impacts the person who is our guest. Not necessarily the case today. These headlines are about you, Leslie. They're about your work in particular. So the first one comes from Insider. And this was just published like yesterday, actually. Okay. The Kansas City Chiefs lead dietitian explains how she sneaks nutrients into players' junk food, from fried chicken to pizza. All right, Leslie, tell us more.
So, one of the things that we know is everybody loves familiar and comfort when it comes to food. And one of the things I think a lot of people would agree that they love is mac and cheese. Can that be a bad thing? It tastes delicious. So the X factor to this is that you puree the cannellini beans and add them in there to actually add some vegetables into that, and oftentimes using like even pureed carrots because it's that beautiful orange color and it's nothing green to have to pick out. So that's kind of my stealth health in terms of what happened. We do a lot of fun foods. So we'll air fry zucchini and air fry mushrooms and air fry cauliflower. So it looks like this crunchy fun, but the value added is there. So I am the queen of the sneak, not necessarily the sneak on the field, but the sneak in the blender or the sneak in the pan, because again, I want these players to get the most out of what it is that they eat. So if we can find that way in through the back door, like the non-alcoholic Bloody Marys, it's like, yes, absolutely it works because it looks like fun to do it that way. I also do energy bites for them, and there is some fruit added into those energy bites. Maybe someday I'll package them, and I don't know, it'll be my new business, but it's just a way of giving them a little bit more produce over the day that seems more exciting than just sitting down and having a piece of fruit.
So of all the different meal components and categories of food that are, part of your nutrition planning, do you feel like fruits and vegetables can be among the toughest to get even the pro athletes excited about?
What's really interesting is you would think with all of the effort they have to put forth on the field that they would be willing to put forth that same effort to food. Let me tell you, that's not true. If the fruit is not cut up, it does not get eaten. Nobody picks an apple because it's too much work. But if you slice that apple, all right, now we're talking. I think it's absolutely hilarious. So, and just putting the broccoli out most of the time. Some guys do, most of them just wouldn't because they're just not used to eating it. They haven't grown up with it. And so that's why we kind of pair with something and familiar. So we might have that air fried chicken sitting over the coleslaw or something. I can get those vegetables in that way, but you're eating the thing that you like and that's made it a little bit easier. And God bless the blenders and the smoothies, right? Because you can just throw everything into that. And certainly beets was a big deal for me. I love them. I think they're so important from a performance perspective. But most of these guys eating a beet, not happening. But
little too earthy taste, huh?
Exactly.
Leslie, you teed up our next headline. This one I found on Yahoo Sports. I think Insider picked it up though too. Published this week leading into the big game. The Kansas City Chiefs dietitian serves the team's protein-packed Soothie Smoothie in shot glasses.
Yeah, so first of all, what's the buy-in? It's the shot glass. Okay, there it is. Oh boy, line it up. The baristas here in the building, or then maybe the produceista or something. But nonetheless, so we have the shot glass, and we also is the smoothie part of that, which again, because football is that uncomfortable sport, so in this particular smoothie, there are beets and there is spinach and there is a little bit of grated orange and there are prunes that are in there and there is tart cherry juice. So we kind of have these anti-inflammatory superheroes that are in the glass, so to speak. And I add a little bit of whey protein isolate to bring the protein into it. So different than just a regular protein shake that typically is fruit and vegetable devoid. This one is actually fruit and vegetable packed, and not only in terms of the protein, value added, bringing that produce along, because there we go in terms of decreasing inflammation. The beets in particular, the dietary nitrates that are in there that have that anti-inflammatory effect. It is a powerhouse. And quite frankly, and when I look long-term health for these guys, there's only so many non-steroidal anti-inflammatory over-the-counter stuff that you really want to be taking. And the liver says, I'm done. So when you do that with fruit and vegetables, We're doing it in a more natural, in a more holistic, in a more nutritious way.
Functional foods, or the concept that has become so popular within grocery retail of food as medicine. There's a lot of grocery retail marketers using that term. Pharmacy is another one that we hear a lot, especially amongst produce marketers. So I think anti-inflammatory foods have never been more desirable. I don't know if it's because I'm aging and my friends and I are talking about it now that we're in our 40s, or if it's something that truly just people are, there's heightened awareness. People are realizing that with proper nutrition, with certain types of foods, you can make yourself feel better. You can heal yourself. You can put yourself in a position where there is no natural inflammation in your body. I'd love for you to expand on that topic in particular, anti-inflammatory foods.
There's certainly a lot of food that would love to wear that badge, and the science is relatively limited in terms of where the evidence is. The good news is that it is about produce. It's not really about other things, with the exception of the omega-3, so that's fatty fish. The rest of it is coming from produce. So, talking about things like beets and pomegranate and berries and tart cherries, all of this is that gorgeous, red color. See, appropriate. We're both wearing red today, is the anthocyanins that are there that actually have a role to play in suppressing the enzymes that cause inflammation. Wow, that's a really cool thing to say. Plus, beets also have a role to play, as does spinach, arugula, and celery, as being these dietary nitrates, so you are getting better oxygen delivery to the exercising muscles. Well, that's critically important as well. And overlaying that, we're looking at things like ginger and turmeric and saffron, where the studies have really been quite intriguing about the fact that they may indeed reduce inflammation. And so most people aren't saying, hey, let me munch on a ginger root. No, but in a smoothie, absolutely. In a stir fry, absolutely. And we have those available all the time. So a lot of times the guys are doing stir fry. Hey, can you grate some ginger in there? It makes me cry with joy. Hey, a little turmeric in there. This is exactly what we want, because it's food, and using food that way, not only to help to heal, but to maintain a lower level of inflammation. So that is preventative eating. The preventative plate, or what I would call the healing plate, is a critical component. And that's a buy-in for athletes, because, all the heals, hashtag all the heals, that's what they want, because that keeps them on the field and not on the sideline.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. We've got Leslie Bonci, sports dietitian for the Kansas City Chiefs, here on the Produce Moms podcast. The Produce Moms photography studio is now open. Our photographer Jan has been taking beautiful photos for theproducemoms.com for nearly a decade, and now we are opening up our Indianapolis-based photography studio to help other brands with their food photography. The Produce Moms Photography Studio is trusted by some of the biggest brands in fruits and vegetables. We're your solution for seasonal, lifestyle, and packaging photography. Our photos have been used for national retailer ads, e-commerce technology, print, digital, social media, and more. To learn more or to schedule your photo shoot with us, email me, Lori@theproducemoms.com. Battling an injury, you mentioned those 4 P's, and the first one being that physiology. When a player is battling an injury, talk a little bit about diet modifications and nutrition modifications that you make to support the healing process.
I think a lot of people would assume that if you have an injury and then you're not physically active, and then you really should decrease your intake considerably. And that's totally false, because when the body's injured, the energy demands are actually higher, because the body is doing its best to heal. So one of the things that we really push is to increase the protein, making sure that protein is part of every meal, along with bringing in the produce is because of the phytonutrients. So trying to get that inflammation down and at the same time do what we need to do to keep the muscle protein synthesis intact. Also, when somebody's not as physically active, sometimes the idea of heavy meals, it's not comfortable to do that. So finding things like smoothies become more appealing. Things like bowls become more appealing because it feels lighter and less daunting to consume. So looking at acai bowls, looking at stir-fried bowls, looking at ramen bowls, that it's not just about the noodle, but how can we put the protein and the produce into that in something flavorful that doesn't require effort and doesn't rest heavy in the gut. And those types of things, those are good deliverables. And those are things that our players can actually do so that we are keeping them as intact as possible. And also realizing, at least in the NFL, it's certainly true for anybody with an injury, you have to do the things to recover. That's PT. And PT is energy demanding. So you have to fuel your body for the rehab, or what we call nutritional rehabilitation. Critically important.
Yeah, I guess so. And I must say the game against the Jaguars, January 21st, you must have been pulling some overtime because there were a lot of Chiefs players who were sidelined that game who came back in time for the conference championship game against the Bengals.
First of all, kudos to an absolutely unbelievable training staff and our physical therapists that truly working overtime, and making sure that these guys are nourished appropriately. It's not mutually exclusive, and truly it takes a village for each and every one of those players to be out there on the field to do what they need to do.
This has just been an absolutely amazing interview. A lot of anticipation for what's coming ahead this weekend. And I hope when we air this on Wednesday, it's after a Chiefs victory, right? So before we wrap, I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to speak to the household level, the moms who are raising, or who themselves are on an athlete journey. But let's talk about the people who have high school, middle school athletes in their household.
So I think for all parents or caregivers, guardians, you are the nutrition coach in your own home, and really thinking about this of a training table, not as elaborate as what the Kansas City Chiefs are, but kind of that checkoff is, what are your kids doing when they wake up in the morning? And I'm a very big believer on hands on, hand in. Get your kids involved with this. So if that blender is out the night before to make the smoothie and all you have to do is shake it up in the morning and out the door, that works. If somebody's putting together a wrap, the beauty of a wrap, you can throw all kinds of things into there, is what do we have available and accessible? Yes, I could grab that apple and some peanut butter and do a 2 for 2, like a bento box type of a thing. Yes, we can do a potato bar. That's really popular with our guys, and you can take a potato and put a lot of things on it, or even like tacos and fajitas. Oh yeah. And the ideas of the pastas and the stir fries are that beautiful way to bring the vegetables in with the flavor, and vegetable and fruit together. So, this is all participatory. This should not be on one person in the house. I'm a very big believer in that personally, Laurie. It's like, no. Everybody is part of it, because we can't eat for our kids. Let's remember that. They have to do that for themselves. But what we can do is provide it for them. And I will tell you, I am such a very big believer in finding ways to use food that we have instead of having to go out and buy the pricey sports drinks and the sports bars. There's no need. Let me tell you, having a fruit leather works as efficiently as some of those very high priced items. Do your own energy bites. Happy to share recipes for them. Do them all the time. Make smoothie shots in home for your kids. Instead of like a Jell-O shot, the way that we might do it, we can kind of do that and add the fruit in and make it fun. And that's a really easy thing for my early morning swimmers and hockey players. Eating, it's like, oh, no, they're too tired to chew. But you can slide that Jell-O right on down, and it works really, really well, and make it fun and make it easy and also make it affordable.
Thank you very much for coming in. Thank you to the Produce Moms team for putting in that hustle so that we can drop this episode in such a short time frame. obviously can't wait to tune into the big game this weekend.
Oh, yes, absolutely. My heart is in my throat. We shall see.
Well, I do have to say we had a little bit of fun as we were discussing this episode. We got to give Robin on the TPM podcast team a special shout out because she's a big Eagles fan and she agreed to putting in the hustle so that we could still publish this on time. So, hey, at the end of the day, folks, whoever you're cheering for, fruits and vegetables are that universal love language. Every team, both of the teams competing this weekend, they agree with Leslie's message. And I know that she's got strong counterparts in the opposing team's locker room. So any closing thoughts or remarks from you, Leslie? Tell folks where they can connect with you or follow along with your work. Again, thank you very much for being here, and go Chiefs.
Yes, you know what? I think if we always talk about this protein and produce on the plate to make our performance great, something that each and every one of us can do. For our guys, it's career extension. For all of us, it's living the best possible life we can. We are all entitled to that each and every day. My website is Active Eating Advice, and I am on Instagram as Bonci LJ, and Facebook and Twitter as Leslie Bonci, #Queen. No, not that. And LinkedIn as well, Leslie Bonci. And this has been so much fun. Thank you so much.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Produce Moms podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and any preferred podcast platform. Check out the Produce Moms on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Special thanks to everyone involved with the Produce Moms podcast, my amazing team. Stay tuned till next time. The Produce Moms is proud to be the first and currently only B Corp certified influencer brand in the world. What does this mean? It means we view our work as a force for good, a good for the community, a good for our employees, for all of our stakeholders and the environment. Your participation in the Produce Moms community empowers all that we do. Please send me an email if you have any feedback or suggestions for this show or the Produce Moms brand overall. I believe that together we can get more fruits and vegetables on every table and make the world a better place.